Is Thursday, February 17th, 7 p.m. This is the select board meeting of the Bolton, Massachusetts, First on our agenda is Nikki McGatchy with a request from Bolton Access Television for the release of funds in the amount of $25,860.08. Let's not forget the 8 cents. Nikki, welcome.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good.
Nikki,
Any news you'd like to share with us? Things going on Bolton Access this coming up?
Well, we've actually got a couple new programs that are in the works. So Amy Balowitz has been doing a local business show, which is cool. She's been interviewing some of the local folks in town. So we've got a few episodes up of that one. And then we're also starting a show with the owner of the Phoenix Wright House. So she's doing some cooking and gardening and some different things. So there's a couple new things coming up, which are fun.
Great. Good. And of course, you're preparing for town meeting and other events like that coming up.
Yeah, I was already bugging Doug. I was like, Doug, tell me all about it. What's going to happen this year?
If he knows, I hope he shares it. So that's good. Do other members of the board have any questions for Nikki?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, can we have a motion, please?
Make a motion that we approve the request from Bolton Access Television for the release of funds in the amount of $25,860.08 for operating expenses.
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Keep.
Here. Aye.
Wysocki.
Aye.
And I am affirmative also. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Next up is Tim Hess with us. I don't have my view.
Looks like studio in situ architect is here.
Yes, his architect is present.
I am scrambling to unmute myself and turn the camera.
Well, next up is a presentation and a discussion of a proposed development plans at 711 and 713 Main Street. These are the two old buildings right at the intersection next to the town common at the intersection of Main Street and Wattaquatic. And we are speaking with who?
My name is Tim Hess. I am the principal with Studio in Situ Architects in Maynard, Mass. We're the architect for the project here. I'm joined by our client and the owner of the building and I guess developer. I don't know that he called himself a developer, but in this case, I suppose he is. Craig Bovaird. And I'm not sure, Craig, your camera's maybe not working tonight.
Yeah, I apologize. For some reason, technology evades me and my camera, it's not working, but I am here and I would not consider myself a developer in any sense of the word. I'm just a passionate liker of beautiful pieces of real estate and opportunities. So, and I'm nicely represented here by Tim, who I'm going to let take the lead. But if you have any questions directly of me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Hess.
Great. Well, thanks so much. And we'll try to be quick. All we really want to do tonight is introduce you to our kind of aspiration and our concepts and expect to see you and in particular, many of the boards and committees in town over the coming months. So with that, if I am able to share my screen, Jenny, is that?
Yep, I did enable share screen.
Okay, thank you. Nice to see some of these faces. I've only spoken to the voices. Okay, let's see how we want to do this. I've got two very brief videos that I will show you. This one's not a video, just a couple of images representing photographs of the building as the three buildings on this parcel as they existed. These shots were all taken kind of early mid-October of 2021. So for anybody not intimate with the buildings, hard to miss these buildings, but these shots give you some sense of their kind of current condition today. This is just a very brief video we prepared just to kind of introduce our concept kind of in context. You'll see that we led with a historic black and white photograph, and we showed a kind of older shot of the town common position before that was rendered up. Before that development took place. These are some of the images and models that we've shared with some of the several groups. We have met, sort of introduced ourselves to the Economic Development Commission, to the Historic Commission, Conservation Commission, had a pretty robust sort of pre-application staff review with Conservation Agent Rebecca Longwall, Town Planner Valerie Ortiz, of course, Jenny, and Town Administrator Donald Lowe. So what I'm gonna show you guys is just a live version of that same model. And it's just a little bit, just sort of barely recognizably enriched from what we had represented in those other, in the kind of earlier views. Craig's parcel is very small. The backside or north side of the parcel is essentially sort of coplanar, but with the back wall of the barn. What we call the west side is some small distance. I don't remember the number, but it's on the order of maybe 5 feet off of the west flank of that existing building at 713. The frontage, of course, is defined by Main Street, and the boundary on the east side is just a little bit more generous than the others. The broad strokes here, the kind of current conditions and current use circumstances at the building called 713, we do not foresee changing those in the near future. At present, you may know there is a kind of I'd call it a lifestyle retail store on the ground floor selling candles and other sort of home goods. The rear of the building is occupied by professional office space. There's an attorney with an office there. And on the upper floor of this gray building, there's a single residential unit. So this is currently mixed use, and it's existing non-conforming. Of course, you'll know that this is all a residential zone. The barn, you may know, is in pretty rough shape. It is, of course, protected by the demolition delay bylaw. We recognize that our efforts to repair the barn are substantial, and there is some possibility. Our builder is a longtime Bolton resident, Tim Murphy of Colonial Barn Restoration. I'm not certain that this is conclusive, so I don't want to speak for him, but I'll tell you, it's I guess our preliminary sense is that very likely the existing barn cannot practically be salvaged, but Tim and Craig have been shopping for appropriately fitting antique barns that would be disassembled and moved to the site and erected in its position, and we would reuse as many of the components. For example, the kind of, the kind of landmark wagon wheel gable window we would reuse and bring a very sort of articulate sensitivity to replication and recreation of the kind of critical details there. This blue building, you may know, has been, as far as we've been able to tell, never been a residence. It was, I believe, a tailor shop in its first incarnation. It spent some decades as the post office, and more recently went through a couple of iterations of antique shops. What we're anticipating is that this building's renovation is to house a sort of a high-end interior design firm. Craig's daughter Stephanie King has recently launched that business, and has been thriving and doing very well, and needs a place to call home. So that's what we've got in mind for that space. So while we're out at this broad view, I'll say we're anticipating a 2-phase project, and I'll approximate, just to sort of keep it simple, so we don't get in too deep, but roughly speaking, the blue building and putting the interior design office in that building would be phase 1. We would probably want to add the wraparound porch to the gray building in that phase, but probably do little or nothing else in connection with phase 1. Phase 2 then would be kind of the whole enchilada, this larger picture. And I'll just describe that right off the bat. This construction we're anticipating here is on town land, which is I guess at the core of what brings us before the Board of Selectmen. Of course, we've got our work cut out for us in demonstrating the appropriate sensitivities to the wetlands and the riparian zone there at Great Brook, and all of the footwork that'll be required for that. But of course, the Planning Board and Conservation Commission cannot grant us permission to do this work on property that's not ours. So we anticipate through the kind of staff pre-application meeting we had with Jenny and Don and Rebecca and Valerie, the sort of consensus, sort of preliminary conclusion is that the likely path forward would be the pursuit of something, let's just call it an easement. There may be some other legal mechanism that you all know about or we might learn about, but for the moment, the placeholder term for it is easement, and we would seek that permission. We expect at town meeting about 14-15 months from now, so spring 2023. Really, our introduction tonight to you all is sort of broad strokes of the concept, and just to make the introduction and take your questions to the extent that you may have some. I'll add just a little bit of color from my own perspective as an architect and a kind of placemaker, a term that I love to use for our work. From my vantage point, there is a deep and kind of very apparent and very powerful authenticity to the historic fabric that comprises, the National Register Historic District here along the Main Street here in Bolton, and a kind of powerful and interesting thing happened when the town common was created, and most acutely, what I think about is the way this gray building, which had been, for much of its life, and certainly when it was designed and built, one of several relatively closely spaced neighbors here, comprising the kind of fabric and the texture and the rhythm of Main Street. And when 715 was removed, and when the former construction over here and the brownfield were cleaned up and the town common went in, one of the kind of consequences was that the long length and kind of northwest flank of this building, which was never composed with any TLC, suddenly had a front row seat on the town common. And to my mind, that kind of relationship would really benefit from a kind of a gesture and a scale and a dignity that has to do with, you know, the sort of appropriate sensibilities of a town common. So that may be a broad enough and good enough introduction for now. I'd be delighted to answer questions if you have any.
My initial reaction is this is very interesting. I mean, you've got picnic tables out there, so you know, it looks like you're going to have some kind of active retail area. Other board members have any questions or comments?
No, this is Stan. I like what I see. I like what they've done with 713. I like the additional structure that's adjacent to the driveway and actually a couple additional parking spaces. I mean, from what I see, it looks very, very pleasing. So I'm very happy with it based upon what I've seen tonight. So nice job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I agree with Stan that you've done some very interesting things. These are beautiful buildings. They've been sitting for so long, and it's wonderful to see your vision and how much you appreciate them and kind of the subtle ways you're adding, but you're not erasing anything. You're really adding. So, you know, I think this is exciting.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, good. Is there anything else you need from us at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I guess given the timeline that I described, we don't have any particular urgency around this phase 2. Of course, you know, we're interested in doing as much as we can as soon as we can. But I think really the fundamentals that we're after tonight is, you know, if there were any sort of feeling or attitude among the board that this notion of construction associated with our development or our project, I'll call it, that would occupy town land, if there was any sense that that's just a non-starter for you all, and we ought to fundamentally rethink the thing without those aspects, that would be helpful to know now. But
Well, let me clarify it for my own mind so I can respond better.
Sure.
When you're talking about town-owned land, you're talking about the space between the gray building on the left and the entrance to the common. You got some parking areas there.
Yep.
And I'm not sure where the lot line is. Right. So I'm not sure where the town land starts and where your land starts.
Roughly speaking, it's right along my cursor here.
Okay, so it's just
Call it
10
5
feet out or something like that. And then I assume you're building that pathway in the bridge in order to facilitate additional parking use in the back.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
And you know, our sense of it would be that it's sort of reciprocal, right? It would both enable users of this project to park there, but it would also enable anybody else from the public who is parking there, to walk into town using this pathway, whether they go to this building or elsewhere.
Yep. Yeah. My initial reaction is I think the pathway, you may get some resistance. I think I would look upon that favorably. I'm not sure about the parking spaces right next to the driveway, how that's going to be received. Personally, I'm okay with it. But you're asking for, how we think it's going to be perceived, and that's my reaction. The other selectmen may have, other select board members may have different opinions.
This is
Thank
Stan.
you.
I like it. I think it looks fine. I certainly at this point would be in a position to potentially support such a thing on town land. More parking spaces are better than less. I mean, this is not a huge number. It looks like probably maybe be 5 or 6 tops. I like the notion of the pathway from the street all the way back to the back parking. So at this stage, I'm certainly not at all adverse to it. I think it's an interesting idea that I certainly could support. Obviously, getting more details, and obviously you've got other boards that have to weigh in on this. But
For sure.
I'm right now, at first blush, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I support the parking concepts and the use of public land. I don't, if we want to have businesses in this area that are viable, we need to provide parking. And I see a lot of, uses on the common that flow into this, mixed use area and vice versa. So I think it's, I like it and I think it's worth pursuing.
Gentlemen, this is Craig. If I may weigh in, Tim's concept here is, to be culturally integrating and combining opportunities from the common into the property. So when you think about what we call the courtyard area, which is now, just this confined parking place, we envision that as a gathering area where people could come and sit from the community, interface with the businesses, small retail, whatever they might be, who knows, coffee shop or something, I don't know. No preconceived notions, but it really, I think, creates a connection where in a very important, iconic piece of property, people can, gather, if you will.
Yep.
It's certainly an underutilized piece of property, and I think you've got a whole bunch of very intriguing ideas nicely combined here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for the edification of anybody who may be attending the meeting tonight or may watch this on replay, just to reinforce one thing Mr. Hess said earlier, for this project to go for this concept to go forward, it would be necessary for the town to grant an easement, and that's a 2-step process. The select board would need to put it on the warrant for next year's annual town meeting, and then it would need to be approved by the body at town meeting. Any easement needs to be approved at town meeting. It can't just be approved by the select board.
Right.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions we can answer?
Geez, I don't think so. I mean, we'll have a ton more questions that I suspect are probably more appropriate for staff. Well, I mean, it's easy enough to ask. A thought that we'll pursue is, might there be any other mechanism apart from easement? When we spoke with Don a couple weeks back, I referred to a sort of analogous, much smaller, but analogous project in another town where the mechanism was a license. And it was a little different because in that case, it didn't require a town meeting vote. But there is a downside to the license, of course, is that it's renewable and therefore, of course, revocable on an annual basis, and would be, for that reason, not a very good fit for something that's a substantial investment like this would be. But just if there is precedent in town or elsewhere that any of you all are aware of that might be appropriate, that would be the kind of thing we'd love to learn about soon.
Mr. Chairman, as I said at the time of that meeting, I'm unfamiliar with the concept of a license or how it would work in that case, I'm certainly open to trying to learn. But if I were the property owner, I would not want to make a substantial investment in something that could be revoked anytime on an annual basis. And to the best of my knowledge, the only way that a municipality can do this is through an easement. If a license works, again, happy to work on researching that, but that would be a difficult investment, I think.
Yeah, and so that comes down to two parts. One is the mechanism for it, and the second is, does it make sense for Mr. Bovair to pursue that? But I think we should be open to that. We're not in a fire drill where we need that answer right away. So I have no insight about the suitability of a license or not. But if there are other avenues to pursue, I think we should understand the strengths and weaknesses of them.
Absolutely.
Yep. And we have time to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes,
We
thank you.
appreciate it. Looks very interesting. Looking forward to hearing from you again.
Well, thanks very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again shortly.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank
Same
you.
for me.
Good
Thank
night.
you very much.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night.
Good night. Next on our agenda is a request from Parks and Recreation to put some no parking signs along the driveway to the town common from Wattaquatic Road into the parking area. Ed Sterling,
Yes,
you
good
speaking
evening.
on this?
Yeah, and we have Lisa, our recreation coordinator.
Okay,
We're just trying to regulate some of the parking that we find occurring in the driveway of people, I think currently probably shopping at the little chocolate and soap shop at the location that we've just discussed a moment ago. And the request was to put in some no parking signs to try to minimize that parking and blocking the driveway.
yeah, I've noticed that sometimes there's parking there and I'm not sure, particularly when it's on both sides, that an emergency vehicle could get down there properly.
Agreed.
So are you looking for no parking signs on both sides of the driveway or just one?
I believe it's just one. Lisa, do you want to confirm your application?
I mean, we can say both sides, but usually people don't park on that other side. They usually just come in and park on the right-hand side, but we can put parking on neither side, but that doesn't usually happen. But
So you want
really-
it on the side where the shops are?
yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
And how wide is that driveway?
You have me,
Not-
sir. I do not know.
Yeah, not very, but two cars just fit. So if someone's parked there, they can't fit. They have to wait for, if someone is coming in and somebody's parked there, 3 cars do not fit there. 2 fit just fine, but that's it. No extra space.
What if we just did a no parking sign close to the intersection, but allowed parking further up?
What was that?
What if, I can see the concern about parking there close to the intersection, but what if we allowed parking further up?
Well, they can park in the parking lot, just not along the driveway side. That's what we're talking about. But there's 6 parking on the street, and then there's also parking in the back parking lot. So just move a couple more steps and there's 25, 30 spots to park.
Yeah, no one should be parking in the driveway leading to the parking area.
Yeah,
How many
I don't think
how
that
many
was,
signs are you anticipating putting up, or would you like to put up?
you put up 2 signs and they say no parking between these signs and each
That
sign
would
has an
be-
arrow.
That would be helpful. Yes.
Okay,
If you put up only one sign, it's unclear where the no parking begins and ends. You
Right.
really need to have
At
a
least
beginning
2.
point and an end point.
I appreciate that suggestion. That's an
Yeah.
excellent idea.
So I would leave it up to, I don't know, does your application, I don't think I have a copy of your application, but does your application specify exactly where the signs are to be or just that you want them? So I would leave it to Randy in DPW about where the signs should go so that
Okay.
there's unobstructed traffic and room for emergency vehicles.
All right, thank you.
Do I have a motion to authorize the no parking?
Before you do that, I would suggest if we're gonna be, if we're gonna do two on the right-hand side, I don't see the harm in doing two on the left.
That's like
Sorry,
visual clutter.
just to make
I
it-
mean,
The only issue is during events, vendors do park temporarily on that, what would it be, west side to unload their vehicles. And I don't know how strict the police would be in enforcing that. I would hope not. It's just temporary parking to load a vehicle, such as a vendor bringing their tent to or from an event on the common.
Well, I think if you talk to the police, when you had such an event, that they would be understanding it. And
Fair enough.
Well, we could add additional parking later if it turns out to be, additional no parking later if it turns out to be a problem.
I think the
All right,
issue right now is people parking for the shop on the corner.
all right, well then why don't we start with two?
Okay,
Okay. So could I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the request from Park and Recreation for two no parking signs to be placed on the side of the driveway to the town common that is on the side of the shops that are lining that driveway.
Is there a
Second,
second?
second,
Okay, I'll do roll call. Jonathan,
aye.
Stan,
Aye,
and I am affirmative also.
thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much.
thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is our town administrator report with your town administrator, John Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening, I have a few things to go over. First of all, the COVID-19 update. Last Thursday, we had 18 new cases in town. This week, as of today, we have 12 new cases in town. The percentage of the total town population that is vaccinated is 94%. The percentage of the eligible town population that is vaccinated is up to 98.2%. And the percentage of the eligible town population that is boosted is 73.3%. So the numbers continue to improve. One thing that I think you will find of interest, I think all boards and committees will find of interest, and I'll make sure this word gets out to everyone, is this week, the governor extended certain aspects of the pandemic emergency that he issued, well, 2 years ago now. The most significant one from our perspective, from the board's perspective, is that of the ability to conduct Zoom meetings. That order was scheduled to expire April 1st. That order has been extended to July 15th.
Right.
So until the middle of July, and who knows, we'll probably begin our summer break on July 14th. So we probably won't even be meeting once that hits. So July 15th, every board and committee is free to continue to conduct their meetings via Zoom if they so wish.
Hey, Don, is there any noise in the State House or in the Massachusetts Municipal Association to make Zoom meetings permanent?
There's noise. I don't know how well the noise is being listened to, but there's a broad consensus, I think, certainly amongst my colleagues, and I agree with this. And I think I don't know that the MMA has an official position yet, but the Zoom option actually improves the public's ability to observe meetings and participate. You know, you're free to do so from your home or on the road rather than having to get in your car and go to a physical location. So it seems to have helped people access meetings. Anecdotally, that would certainly seem to be the case. Next, I would just want to give you a brief update on the solar project. We are awaiting National Grid to approve an interconnection agreement that had originally been planned to be done by February 14th, but I know there's been storm issues and so forth that have caused that to slide, but we do believe that that is imminent. And as you'll see when we take our first stroll through the town warrant tonight, one of the articles, proposed articles on there is for the town to approve a 25-year lease for this. Part of Mass General Procurement Law is any lease that a municipality enters into in excess of 3 years must be approved at a town meeting, which is why that's been added.
Okay.
And we're also waiting for confirmation of acceptance of a grant application, which I also expected to see by now, that the vendor did that as part of the process. So things continue to move forward on that. And as we have new developments, I will certainly share them with you. Next, Public Waste Safety Committee. I just wanted to let the board know I had my annual meeting with the Public Waste Safety Committee last week, and it was a very interesting meeting. Public Waste Safety updated me on their activities over the past year, and which I found very interesting. We had some discussions about projects going forward, and one discussion that we had, which we're going to continue, I think, well, I don't know if we need to tweak it a little bit, but I think we came to consensus is the best way to handle sign requests from private citizens. What involvement does the Public Waste Safety Committee have? What actions is the private citizen responsible for before it makes its way to the select board in a situation where the select board needs to approve the sign request? So overall, very helpful meeting, as it always is with the Public Waste Safety Committee, and also got to meet the two newest members of the committee, which is always nice. Mr. Chairman, I see the chair of the Public Waste Safety Committee has a hand up.
All right. Are you finished, Don?
I'm not finished with my report. I'm finished with that topic.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Mary.
Hi, okay, I wasn't responding for the public waste safety. It was about the solar panels over the
Okay,
septic.
make sure you have a question here.
Okay, so my question is that the best location to put a solar field over a septic field? And also, will that prohibit any other use for that field? Because the town doesn't have a lot of available land that can be used for recreational or whatever. Just putting in my 2 cents.
The answer is yes, it is the best location for a solar field, and yes, it will prohibit any other use of that land.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Don, continue.
So one thing that is not here, I just learned of this today. We have received approval of a grant application that was submitted by the DPW, by Randy Hegland, for stormwater asset management planning in the amount of $60,000. And among other things, that grant we will be able to hire a consultant to perform inventory and assessment of all culverts in town, including one that I always pray nothing unanticipated happens, which is the one that runs under 117 in the Pond Park, because that would be devastating. There will be a college intern hired that will perform field work, and there's also a mapping component, and it will be mapped on GIS. So we have received preliminary notification that we have received the grant and are awaiting official notification. But assuming the official notification comes through, that is going to be a real boon to us to be able to inventory all of our culverts.
I don't know that there are enough numbers to count all of our culverts. But
We-
I
We use
appreciate
exponents if we
Randy,
need to.
I appreciate Randy getting a grant to find out. So, all right, good,
That's great.
good.
That's great.
And unless there are any questions, that is all I have for this evening.
Okay. Any questions? No. Up
Don,
Thank you.
to select board business. Are there any public service announcements?
Not this evening, not for me.
Okay. Next up, we want to discuss the progress of demolition of the cottage at Persons Park. Stan has the most experience and history with this, so I'm going to let him initiate the update on this.
Great, thanks, Bob. And I see you're here. I know that you have been in discussions with the Historical Commission relative to getting the agreement and also the need to get the demolition permit signed. You know, perhaps you can give us an update where things stand at the moment.
Sure. Parks and Recreation, as well as the Board of Selectmen, did approve going forward with an application for demolition. The application for demolition has not in fact been submitted yet. In working with the Bolton Historical Commission, their request was that something called an SPP, a site preparation plan, be created to work out the details of the demolition, the history, if you will, the demolition process, the reuse process, how it would be defined, what the definition of the new park would look like, and apparently to meet some of the deed requirements to honor the grantor of the gift, the person's family, as part of the creation of the new park. We have some disagreements in terms of how this goes forward. My view is that it goes forward in steps. I think Bolton Historical would like it to be a package so that they have a very solid feeling that the money is there. The definition of the new structure is very well defined. The the specifics of what it's going to look like, sort of number of picnic tables and so on. I just don't see that working in a municipal situation like this where we have to have town meetings approve funding. So most recently, literally in the last 2 days, I have tried to work a different version of the agreement with Bolton Historical to urge them to consider that the cottage is demolished as a separate act, that we seek funding for that demolition and removal, that it may well be a fire department training exercise, that the grounds are safely, the detritus is removed, and then the grounds are safely, shall we say, smoothed over, maybe grass seed planted, just to make it safe, possibly construction fencing going up as we move forward. Then planning for a future town meeting, we define with help from the community what the new structure would look like. And we initially envisioned pavilions. It's been a very successful design at Town Common, having our master pavilion and a little one up top of the hill has served the community very well. And I assume the same would be true here. We need a structure that does not need to be monitored and maintained on a regular basis. And the cottage failed because of that. I don't think we'd ever been given a structure to manage like that in a gift. And we didn't have the resources at Town Hall to have someone operate the cottage on a regular basis. And it did fall into disuse after a number of committees tried to make it work. And I think about 10 years ago, that the use of the cottage stopped. It was deemed to be relatively unworkable. It was old, it was dark, there was vandalism, and so it was boarded up. And so I would like to replace it with some structure like a pavilion. And I'd like community input so that we go a little broader and we get some fresh ideas so that we could have a nicer functional park with an outdoor shelter like that. And we can define perhaps other picnic sites on the property and so on. And then again, honoring the deed, providing a shelter and honoring the family. We could put up a new plaque. We could put up a new sign of some significance that would honor the person's family for their gift. And I'm trying to work out those details right now with Bob Bush. We've tried to meet, and I think cordially, and we're close to an understanding. I'm just trying to change it to it so that it's a sort of a staged process, not a full package deal. Why don't I let Bob make a comment on how he feels about that?
Yeah, I think you stated it pretty well, Ed. I mean, our preference would be to do it all at once. If that's not practical, then we can look at some alternative to that. The concern of trying to do it all at once was basically to make sure that however we decide to demolish the building, we don't preclude whatever future use we want to do to the site. You know, once we move the bulldozers in and things get shifted around and stuff gets torn down, then whatever other options might have presented themselves will go with it. Whereas if we had an integrated plan where both activities happen simultaneously or in sequence, then presumably we could come up with a plan, work up the architectural details, and then do the demolition consistent with the plan, and hopefully at the end of the day, spend less money.
Okay. So right now, my understanding is that if we were to demolish it, it would essentially, we'd apply for it. Our fire department would most likely have a controlled burn. We believe that the cost of the removal of the debris would be significantly less because there would be less debris, so it would cost the town less money. And possibly it could come from some available funds to be worked out. If not, we would come seeking money perhaps through another town meeting at some point. But that's something of a detail. So we need to decide if we can go forward now and at least submit the application for demolition, and then working with the fire chief, working with the town administrator, understand the costs of the removal of the debris, the what would you call it, filling in of the site, the cellar hole, and then at the same time, I see no reason why we can't go forward seeking community input and help on what the design would be.
Yeah, so I read the plan, and I just wanted to say that if we're getting rid of the building, I think at the same time we should consider getting rid of the septic system. It's a huge mounded system next to the cottage. And
we do agree with you. We do agree.
Yes.
Yes.
That would be a good place to put some of that fill in the hole and just, you know, start with a bigger area to look at. Right
I've
now,
spoken with Chris Rogers about that, seeking Board of Health input on whether it's acceptable to them to reuse the mound as fill either there or at some other location. And he said he would take that up with his board at the next meeting.
Great, great.
And Bob, I appreciate the work that you've done in the time. And I think we've been at this now for well over a decade and have had multiple conversations with the Historical Commission over that period of time. And I've been involved in it since the beginning. I think it makes better sense to do it in a phased approach. We need to get the building raised. It is in condition, a continuing deteriorating condition. It is certainly not salvageable. I think we should move forward with the demolition, and we should get both the fire chief as well as the DPW chief involved. I think they're the best individuals in terms of what the fire chief would like to do as far as a training exercise. And I think Randy at the DPW will have the best insight as to what will need to be done to that building prior to the training exercise to get any asbestos out, et cetera, et cetera. And then the best mechanisms for, you know, whatever is left to have it removed and to basically return that land to basically flat land, and in addition to getting rid of the septic system. You know, whether or not the Historical Commission wants to invoke the demolition delay bylaw, but we really would like to get this done this year, at least as far as the training exercise. You know, moving forward, I think it's very important that we get community input as to what, if anything, they would like to see there. I think, you know, one of the things that's been lacking over the past decade plus is that, there has not been any group coming forward that wanted to use the structure, that had any defined plan, that had any funding to rehabilitate that structure. We had 2 site visits back in 2011, 2013, where, it was discussed what the cost would be to bring that building up to code. And I know that, there were a lot of good intentions back then, but obviously none of that came to fruition. So I think if we can get that demolition permit executed and move forward, get that done, and then we'll have some time to discuss amongst everyone, because I believe, a lot of this discussion about pavilions and what to do and where to place it and how it looks have been primarily between you, Ed, and the Historical Commission. And I think we
Right.
need to get a wider group of folks involved in that to see what they want and if they want to spend the money. Yeah, additionally, not just that structure, but there needs to be site improvement done. Better access to the water. I know this in visiting it years ago, and I'm sure it's only gotten worse. The root structure of a lot of those trees are exposed. There's a well that's there that has a structure there. We need to deal with that as well. But I would like to see us move forward with getting the demolition done. I think we've gone well past the time to get that done. It'll provide an excellent training exercise for the fire department. Jeff is very excited to move forward with that, and I think we need to get Randy involved to come up with a sensible plan, prior to the demolition, what needs to be done as far as any hazardous material removal. I'm sure the Historical Commission might want to go into that structure to remove some items before it's taken down, and then let's get it done and set up some meetings and get some meetings with the public going. But I think the first step, which I think we should do now, is get that demolition permit executed. So
It's sounding like this could be done in-house, Don, and everybody.
What can be done in-house is the controlled burn exercise for sure. What would need to be done prior to that would need to be abatement of some asbestos that's present. There's already been an asbestos survey done, so we know where it is. There's not a lot, but we know where it is, and we know what it would take. Afterwards, I don't know, depending on what it looks like, Jonathan, we may be able to do the site grading ourselves. We may not, depending on what it requires. So at a minimum, pardon me, at a minimum, there would be asbestos abatement. And then whatever removal of materials that's left. I know that the Historical Commission would like to retain the chimney and fireplace if possible. And if possible, by all means, we want to support that, but how that's done and how that is moved, if it's moved elsewhere, I don't think we have the capability of doing that either. So I think we could do most of it. I don't know that we can do all of it.
Okay.
Don, just a quick clarification is the Historical Commission doesn't necessarily want to keep the chimney, but we were concerned about providing the opportunity for it at least to be considered in whatever architectural redesign got done on the site. If it made sense to do it, then clearly we would want to have torn it down in advance, but we're not convinced that it's actually that useful. So it may be okay to take it down. It's just, we didn't want to miss the opportunity to consider it, that's all.
So I think the desire is there to try to accommodate it if that is a desire and it makes sense, but you're right. I mean, it may not make sense, but
yeah,
if that's something that is desired and we can accommodate, I'm sure we'd like to try.
Great.
Right.
What I don't understand, and I haven't heard anybody explain, is why the demolition permit isn't signed. Why are we waiting for these discussions to end before signing the demolition permit?
There was actually a concrete reason for that. The way the demolition delay bylaw is structured is the objective of the potential 6-month delay is to work with the nominally the developer, in this case, the town, to come up with a plan. And the idea that we were working from was to try to get that plan done before the permit was filed for, which would then take the delay off the table.
But it's
Because we
been
already have
6
the plan
months.
done and we could act instantaneously. But there's no objection to going ahead and filing that permit tomorrow.
Well, okay, but again, I think it's been 4 to 5 months since, Ed, we sat down and everyone agreed we were gonna do the permit.
It
So,
has, yes.
You know,
I think it's been
whether it was intent,
a respectful process, Bob, and I think we're.
that's fine. I'm glad, but I don't know. The respectful process can continue, but I think the demolition permit should be signed.
Okay. My senses were there. We're there.
Okay.
It's time to do it, and I think it's time to engage Randy and the fire chief as part of that process. I believe we received a $3,000, if I'm not mistaken, charge for the asbestos removal. I don't believe it's happened yet.
Okay.
Don, did you feel that town administrator could pay for that?
I feel that, well, depending on what that is, you know, which part are you talking about, Ed?
The asbestos removal based on their testing? They said.
Yes, I believe we can.
Okay,
And if it falls a little short, you know, I could certainly ask the select board to approve a small amount of ARPA funds,
all right.
and that would be appropriate.
We likely have purchase of service funding as well that could be spared.
Okay. If we don't have progress on this, I'm going to want to put this on the agenda for the March select board meeting again.
I think it'd be a good idea, Bob, so that we could get the status report back to you of what has happened, and hopefully it's positive and moving forward.
I hope you come and tell me what got accomplished. Yes.
Fair enough.
Well, gentlemen, I see no reason why the demolition permit cannot be executed and signed now.
Okay,
Right.
I see no reason why we need to wait any further on that.
all right.
I think that we need to get that executed, and I think certainly, and I think all of us responsibly here want to have a concrete plan from the chief, fire chief, as to what he's planning on doing as far as his training exercise, and meet with Randy to get what he needs as far as a pre-demolition plan and demolition plan after the training exercise by the chief. And that all can be started now. We're certainly we're not going to go out next week and get the cranes in and tear the damn thing down.
Right.
We have to wait till fair weather before the chief can even do what he needs to do, and he needs time for planning. But I think as a first step, we really need to get the permit executed and move forward.
All
So
right.
I don't see that there should be any delay in getting that done. I
Okay,
think
just
so.
a clarification is, in order to follow the bylaw, we will need to have some public hearings along to actually approve the demolition permit. It's not just a simple application, but it shouldn't necessarily take a long time. But there's a prescribed process that takes, you know, several sequential activities that can take anywhere from 4 weeks to longer.
That's fine, but none of it starts until it's signed.
Agreed.
Correct.
So
Well,
we-
right, it needs to be.
I'm not trying to affect the process. I'm just trying to get the process
We
going.
need to get the process going.
Understand.
Now, to me, it's been this, you know, Jonathan said a respectful process. It's been a respectful process for 10 years, like Stan said, right? There've been numerous attempts to avoid this. And it's time to just move forward. So I hope that document is signed in the next 24 hours. That's my hope.
We'll do our best.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Mr. Bush?
Nope, I
Stan,
think we're good.
Jonathan?
Nope, nope.
Thank you,
Uh,
Bob. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the need to sign a warrant to establish the caucus, the Citizens Caucus, prior to the annual town meeting, the annual town's election. This caucus would be held on Monday, March 7th at 7:30 PM in the public meeting room of the library. Do we need to have any discussion about this?
No, Mr. Chairman, just to vote to call the caucus.
Okay, could I have that motion, please?
Yep, make a motion to call the caucus and to execute the notice. The caucus will be held on Monday, March 7th at 7:30 at the program room at the Bolton Public Library.
Second,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, I will do roll call. Jonathan,
aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and I'm affirmative also. Thank you. Next up is the initial review of the warrant for the annual town meeting of May 2nd of this year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As is every year with the first review of the warrant, this really is more a stroll through the warrant, just to give a flavor for what's coming. You know, the detailed review will be on March 10th when town council is present along with the town moderator, and usually advisory is present as well. So this is just to give you a flavor of what's ahead. Article 1 is very pro forma. They always accept the annual reports. And Article 2, we have 2 unpaid bills this year totaling $101.52. Article 3 represents all the different components of the operating budget, which is still in flux. Article 4, the building capital fund. This article may well come off, and I'll know better after another meeting with advisory. This was at the request of Randy, and I totally agree with what he's trying to accomplish. It just is difficult under Mass General Law and our restraints. In New Hampshire, apparently it was much easier. But what Randy would like to create is a fund where if there's an emergency with a town building that we've started putting together or putting aside money where we can react to that without having to wait for a special town meeting. The problem with that is the only way you can do that is to create a stabilization fund. And a stabilization fund, no matter what type it is, requires a 2/3 vote of town meeting to take any money out of it. So we would still need that special town meeting aspect of it. So to try to address what we know we want to get to for next year, as you may recall, last year, Randy proposed and was approved at annual town meeting a $50,000 article to hire a consultant to review all of our town buildings, to give us a report on things that need to be addressed, the conditions of the building and so forth. We've received a draft of that report. We don't have the final report yet, but we have received a draft. And Randy's put together a tentative list of projects to tackle next year that are known issues with buildings. We still need to finalize that, but the feeling now is that we could do one of two things. One, we could expand the buildings budget within the DPW to that amount, by that amount for next year to do known work, or we could simply designate some ARPA funds to be able to deal with that. I think probably it's more transparent to do it in the budget, and then town meeting is voting on it, where we don't, where the select board is the sole authority to authorize ARPA funds. So I think it's good for a couple of reasons. One, let the townspeople weigh in on doing that, and two, raise the visibility to people that last year they voted for $50,000 to fund a study, and it's not a study that's just sitting on a shelf. We're actually doing something with it, and that we're trying to be good custodians of town property. So I have a feeling that this article will end up getting removed, but I don't know that. And as I said, I totally support what Randy's trying to do. I ran into the same thing a few years ago, trying to address in a proactive way the water treatment facility, and some, trying to stay ahead of issues there. So that's a long explanation of this article.
Don, if there's kind of two things going on though with this article, because the way the article is written, this is to provide for unexpected expenses. And you spent a lot of time talking about the report and defined deferred maintenance that basically needs to be done. And if we go back to the question of unexpected expenses, can't we just increase the advisory reserve by a certain amount?
No, because
For unexpected expenses.
Well, it's actually unanticipated, and what we're anticipating is a problem with. I mean, we're anticipating it. So what I'm told is the answer is no, we can't do that.
Okay.
Because by talking about it, it's now anticipated, and you can't.
Even though we don't know where it is or anything like that.
But we're not supposed to be budgeting money in that way either. I mean, we've got a standard advisory reserve fund, that's fine, but expanding it for something that may or may not happen, one would argue that we're taxing people for something that may not be necessary. So, and if we did have an unanticipated event, an emergency, there are provisions under procurement laws where we can do emergency spending to react immediately, and then afterwards we can make an appropriation, whether it be at a special town meeting or what have you. So there is a mechanism to address that.
All right, thank you.
So next, Article 5.
Excuse me, Jenny, do you want to put the warrant up on the screen? We're on Article 5 now.
Sorry, I had windows open. Yep, I'll do that right now.
So Article 5 is an annual pro forma article which reestablishes the revolving funds every year and the maximum amount that can be expended from each of those funds. Article 6 is a request by the tax collector to increase demand fees. Currently, they are $10. The request is to go to $30. The last time these fees were increased was at the annual town meeting of May 2009. And demand fees, for anyone who may not be familiar, is if you do not pay your tax bill in a timely manner, you are assessed a demand fee. So this is not a fee that would hit everyone. It is those people who are not timely in paying their tax bill.
Does it have to be a fixed amount, or can it slide depending on how much money we're talking about?
No, it needs to be a fixed amount.
Okay.
Well, if it's a fixed amount, Don, is $30 enough? I don't see going from 10 to 30 as a tremendous incentive. I would be.
By statute, we can't go above 30.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. That's a shame. I would opt to go higher.
So are these taxpayers who are waiting and paying right before the next bill, like the last bill before the next one?
No, you would have to be deemed to be delinquent. So you would have received for the sake of a time frame, you've received your first quarter bill, you haven't paid it. Now your second quarter bill has been issued and the first quarter bill hasn't been paid yet.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Article 7, the addition of Juneteenth as an accepted holiday for town employees. As I think we all know, last year, the federal government established Juneteenth as a federal holiday. And this proposes that we observe the federal holiday for all town employees.
Okay.
Number 8, to amend longevity. As I've talked with the board in the past, I'm trying to come up with areas that allow us to remain competitive in the ever more competitive field of attracting and retaining employees. I honestly don't know when the last time was that our longevity saw any significant adjustment, but it's been a while, and we are not currently competitive with other towns. So of course, what we want is to retain employees, and you're not even eligible for longevity until you're here 10 years. So we want to keep good people, and I'm hopeful that this is supported. Number 9, article number 9, the amendment to the code of the town of Bolton relative to animals at large. And the brief explanation is we're looking to add fowl and poultry to those creatures who fall under this statute. And as the summary says, this will enable the animal control officer to be responsive to complaints of fowl and poultry in the roadway, creating dangerous conditions because they don't currently fall under our bylaws. Next, Article 10, the solar lease. I discussed it earlier when I gave the solar update. Any lease that exceeds 3 years in length as being a long-term lease needs to be approved by a town meeting vote, so that the town is aware that the town is making such a commitment. Article 11, the storage container at South Cemetery. This would be a container that would blend in with the environment or the surroundings as best as possible, so it's not offensive, and it would replace the old building that's there now, and the remnants of the old building would be disposed of properly, and it would be placed on on grade and on a cement foundation.
So Don, I want to make sure that this isn't a shipping container, that we're getting a real shed and not just, a metal shipping container that's painted, I don't know what color. There've been a proliferation of shipping containers in town at the soccer fields behind town hall. So I just wanted to get an update on that.
I'll follow up with Randy, since the wording is storage shed / container. I believe Randy's intent is what you're saying, but we confirm that up.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a shed at the town common. That's what a shed looks like. I just don't want to see a metal shipping container on another piece of town property.
Yeah, I'm not sure a shipping container is appropriate at a cemetery.
No, and I don't think that's the intent. I don't have the sheet in front of me, but I'm 99% certain that Randy's intention is a shed.
Oh, okay.
What kind of shed are we getting for $16,000? That seems to be somewhat excessive. What are we putting in this thing?
I don't think $16,000 for a shed's outrageous.
Yeah,
Well, it all depends on what size the shed is. I mean,
Yeah, I don't have the binder in front of me. Randy gave me the specs when he submitted the proposal. Certainly, it's much larger than a shed that you would see at you would have it at your home as a 10 by 10 or 10 by 12. But I don't have the dimensions in front of me. I mean, that
okay.
we can fill in the gaps on March 10th.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I'd love to
Um,
see a photo.
I believe I have one in the binder, Jonathan. In fact, what I can do Monday, when I'm sorry, Tuesday, when I'm back in the office is scan what was submitted by Randy as part of the request and get it out to you.
Okay, great.
That'd be great, thanks.
Number 12, the large format plotter, printer, scanner, for $11,000. This serves a few different purposes. Certainly allows us the ability to print out large formatted plans. Because now we've got most, if not everyone, submitting plans on a thumb drive. So when you need to sit down and put something out on a table to review more easily, it would allow for that. But I actually think the greater benefit is the archival capability. We can take a lot of the plans that we've got on file now, scan them, so we've got them as permanent records, and try to free up some space in the town hall.
Yeah.
But,
Well, that's a good idea.
the space is at a premium.
Yep.
Don, why would we purchase one instead of lease one? And I'm not even thinking about the cost savings year to year. I'm thinking about the fact that the thing will be obsolete and we'll have to, whereas a lease, you can get an upgrade.
We could review the lease option. When I had a preliminary discussion with Randy, for reasons I'm not recalling right now, it seemed to me that the purchase made more sense, but I'll certainly go back and talk to Randy about the lease option and see if that's something that may be more desirable.
I'm not even sure it's something at this level you can even lease it.
I don't know. It's been since January since I discussed the plotter with Randy. So I would need to refresh my memory. I'm not positive there was a lease option, although we may have discussed one, or we may have discussed trying to find out if there was one and there wasn't. I just honestly don't remember.
I find it hard to believe that if you can lease a printer scanner for office use, that somebody's not financing larger plotters like that.
Yeah, I just can't answer the question right now.
Okay.
Yeah, but our printer scanner at town hall costs a hell of a lot more than $11,000, and that's why you can lease it.
Okay.
And then
Costs almost as much as a storage shed. Is that what you're telling me, Stan?
Put way more than a storage shed. Way more, huge.
as long as we don't put the plotter in the shed, that would not
There
work.
you go.
And then the standard Article 13 to authorize the town election. And that's where we are right now.
That's so
So-
short.
So
Can we assume that there are no zoning articles?
there are no zoning articles this year because the planning board is working on the master plan. So they felt they should wait for the work product of the master plan and then look at zoning articles afterwards. So you're correct. There are no zoning articles this year.
Okay,
And capital requests are way down because we have the option of using ARPA money for some of the capital requests. So this is,
cool.
this may be the smallest warrant I've seen since I've been here.
Well, let's hope we stick to that number. Lucky 13, right?
If you say so. I'm slightly superstitious and I don't have faith.
All right. Next up is a vote to approve $8,816.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I feel like I should clarify one thing. If we do end up with a lease option, then obviously the article would be pulled because it wouldn't require an article on the warrant.
Okay.
I just felt the need to clarify that.
Okay. So we need to approve $8,816 in ARPA expenditures.
Yes,
What are these?
those are the test kits that I ordered.
Oh,
that
okay.
That the governor made available through special blanket procurement.
Okay. Could I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Jonathan,
aye.
Stan,
Aye.
I also approve.
Thank you.
Next up is the appointment of James Barr to the Planning Board.
Who is he replacing?
Danielle,
He's replacing Danielle Spicer, who had to drop off the board.
Okay.
And I'd like to recognize Danielle's hard work. She worked really hard and did a nice job
she
on the
did.
planning board.
Yeah,
And James's term is till when? Do we know when his term expires?
I
Hold
think
1 second, please.
it says, the letter says to the next annual town election. So I guess it's between now and May is the way I read that.
Okay. So we should make sure that Pam's aware of that. I have to
Pam is aware.
go back and look what she wrote in the call. Okay, cool.
All right. So
we
do
know
I
if
have a
he-
motion to appoint Mr. Barr to the open position on the planning board?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Jonathan,
aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and I am also in favor. Next is the appointment of Paul Brandvold to the Conservation Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Jonathan,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and I also approve. Review and approve the Select Board Annual Report for 2021. Jenny, you want to put that up?
Bob, are you the author or Stan?
I am. Well, it depends whether or not you like it.
If you hate it, maybe I wrote it.
No, I wrote it.
Okay. I just had a comment on the last two paragraphs. Unless there's something else somebody wants to discuss. Just kind of, so the last sentence on the second to the last paragraph, those limits are set by the planning board with approval of the voters. I'm just wondering what that's referring to.
Well, my thinking at the time is that we have a very heavy reliance on residential tax revenue. We need to develop other streams of income. I would hope for commercial or industrial increases, but those are defined by the planning board with the approval of voters at the annual or special town meetings. So that was my thinking.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess it just seems a little doom and gloomy.
Other people had that reaction too, didn't they, Jenny?
I mean, we have made great progress in bringing in new businesses and new development, major ones.
Yeah, but
And
we
just had something tonight. So I just, it just seems.
But yesterday, we got word that the likely increase in the Neshoba, but just the Neshoba budget increase is going to eat up all of our Proposition 2.5 revenue growth.
Well, I think you can be doom and gloom there, but I just, yeah.
I felt I should put it in there. I'm not going to dig my heels in if people want to change it or take out that paragraph.
Are you saying those limits are set by the planning board in terms of business coming into town?
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting.
It's
I-
not
Too
I-
vague, we could change it or take it out.
I would say take it out because it doesn't really read that way.
Okay.
I mean, quite
And
frankly.
then
it's
we
not
should
really
take
set by
out,
the
then
planning-
we should take out the last two sentences.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, all right, Jenny, take out the last two sentences of that paragraph.
Yes,
And
I do it right now, but it's a PDF.
Okay, no, that's fine. Jonathan, did you have a comment on the closing paragraph too?
No, the closing's fine. I meant,
Okay.
above that, there's more doom and gloom,
Yeah, now take out those last two sentences. And any other comments on other portions of it?
I thought Bolton's port, I thought our budget was more than 60, our budget was 60, more than 62.4% of the Neshoba Regional School District. I thought it was closer to 65 or 66 last year.
I don't have the numbers in front of me at this very moment, but
Or is that less Minuteman?
that's, yes, maybe with Minuteman, it's closer to 65, 66%.
Okay.
That may be what you're thinking of. But I was only looking at the Neshoba, because that's where the chronic growth comes. We're getting a big, I'm not confused that we're getting a big bump from Minuteman, but it's because the new school opened, we're sending a lot more students there. I would expect that to smooth out in the future.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not comfortable with Neshoba. Well, I don't want to drag this on if you guys are happy. So
Yeah, it's fine.
If all we want to do is take out those two sentences, can we move on to the next agenda item?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks for
That would be approving minutes for the regular meetings. These would be the minutes of December 16th, January 13th, and January 27th. I think Jenny has to put up some because there were some minor edits.
Don,
do.
do we need to approve the annual town report?
Oh, yes.
I don't know that it's mandatory, but I do think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the select board annual report for 2021 as written by Bob Sikansky.
Yes, as with the recognized changes.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jonathan,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and I also approve. Okay. And Jenny, you've got a plan for photographs or something like this, like you always do?
I need it, hang on.
No.
No.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not. I can reuse the photo that we used last year from a Zoom meeting. I could take a new one from a Zoom meeting, or I can use the one of the three of you at the very cold event on the Common, or we can make alternative plans. What do you gentlemen prefer?
Last year's was fine. Just reuse
Last
it.
year's was fine.
Yeah.
I'll do
Town
that.
Common. Big hats.
Frostbite
Uh,
picture.
Okay.
All
And
right,
so
so
go
we
ahead,
have-
let's go on to minutes.
3 sets of minutes. We have December 16th, 2021, which had no changes. Then there were minor changes to January 13th, which I will share now.
Were they just grammatical and spelling?
They were like a couple
Okay,
small
so we can skip that one.
changes, and the same for January 27th, 2022. They were very minor changes. Nothing substantial.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Second,
All those in favor of approving the minutes from December 16th, January 13, and January 27, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, roll call. Jonathan,
aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and I also approve. Next, we need to approve the bills and payroll warrants, W 22-16 and W 22-16A.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Jonathan,
aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and I also approve. Next, we will go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for purpose 3, that is to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining, as the chair finds that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the board's bargaining position with the Teamsters Union, Local 170, and the Bolton Police Union, Local 286, IUPA, AFL-CIO, to approve executive session minutes. The board will return to open regular session at the conclusion for a possible vote on the memorandum on a memorandum of understanding.
Right, give me just a few minutes to move everyone.
We
into
gotta
the
we gotta
waiting room.
vote.
Have
Roll-
I vote to go to
sorry.
executive
Do I have a
session,
motion?
So moved.
Second,
Jonathan, roll call.
aye.
Stan,
Aye.
I also approve.
Right, and the time for the record is 8:30. Give me just a couple minutes.
Nan's hanging in there. You're muted, Jenny.
All right, we're good to go.
All right. Could I have a motion to execute the memorandum of understanding between the town?
Yes. I will make a motion that we should execute the memorandum of understanding between the town of Bolton and the Bolton Police Union, Local 286, IUPA, AFL-CIO.
Second,
Roll call. Jonathan,
aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and I also approve. Are there any other issues we need to discuss?
Don, can we have a report next week on the medical dispensary? Not medical, but the marijuana dispensary?
Yes, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Okay. Well, I see by a clock on the wall that our time together is coming to an end. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Jonathan,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
I also approve.
You sounded just like Mr. Rogers there for a moment.
There you go. Don and Jenny, thank you very much. Stan and Jonathan,
Thank you.
have a good night.
Have a
You
good
as
night, everyone.
well. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. The time for the record is 8:41.